Much has been made this season about Pep's students. And I'm talking about people like Vincent Kompany at Burnley, Xavi at Barcelona, Mikel Arteta, of course, at Arsenal. All managing teams right now. Where are they? Top of their respective leagues. Stuart, does your playing career and who you played under have a real impact on your qualities as a manager?
I think so, without a doubt. It has an impact on your personality. I mean, I spent 8 years with Brian Clough, and everyone who spent time with him, if you talk to the boys that have spent time with Alex Ferguson, they impact on your psyche, on your approach to football and how you play the game and whatever. And certainly these boys now have gone out and at this moment in time, you would say Kompany and Arteta have been quite incredible, really, what they're achieving.
Do you pinch ideas? Will they be pinching his ideas?
Without a doubt. I mean, they've been on the training ground with their eyes and ears open for years, working underneath them. So I'm sure they did. Arteta's been fortunate. He's worked alongside him as a manager and heard him in the coach's room. So you do pick up on all of those type of things. I've been fortunate enough for 2 or 3 years to work alongside David Moyes, and there's no doubt that things that he does and how he acts as a manager, all the managers you've worked with as a coach or an assistant rub off on you.
I mean, I suppose there are instances, though, that it doesn't make you a better manager, and these are quite glaring. Gary Neville tried his hand in management, didn't work out. Maybe tried to implement things that he had seen under Ferguson, didn't work out. Tony Adams, didn't work out.
There's a multitude of high-profile names that haven't worked out, but the bottom line is you still get influenced by those individuals that you work underneath and alongside, for good and for bad, by the way. There's certain times you look and say, you know what, I probably wouldn't have done it that way. I'd have been a bit more kinder with my wording, or not, as the case may be. Or sometimes you look and say, I should have been a bit sterner in this situation than I actually was.
Yeah. Have you questioned yourself about decisions you made in your time in management?
Always. I mean, listen, I'm sat here with you two hobos at the moment.
How
you know what I mean? Instead
happen?
of being on a patch of grass somewhere, managing a top flight team. So
yes.
I've got to question myself on a daily. But as much as I really enjoy this,
could I have got any lower? Yes, exactly.
Have I reached my nadir? Is the question. I don't think I have yet.
I mean, Simon, you spoke to and appointed managers, of course, along the way.
Yeah.
Is there an exact science to this? I mean, is it coincidental? Or is it more than coincidental?
Well, I mean,
that these three, Kompany, Arteta and Xavi, are pulling up trees, and they might well have a bit of plagiarism involving Pep.
I think we are all the sum of all of our experiences in life, and you take good from people and you take bad from people, and you try to make sure that the good that you take from people advances you and leave the bad behind. It doesn't matter how much experience you've got. What is the definition of a manager ultimately? I suspect it's probably leadership, and that is something you can't teach. You're either leader or you aren't. So we can wrap it around saying Pep students, and of course we can wrap it around saying Alex Ferguson's guys that all flew out from underneath his nest and went off, whether it was Steve Bruce or whoever else you can talk about that played for him that would have gained his experience. You'd have to be a very obtuse individual not to pay for these great managers like Brian Clough and for Alex Ferguson and of course Pep Guardiola and not take something from it. But that's not going to make you a leader. A leader is something you either have in your DNA or you don't. Something that you have as a person that you will have had and you will have shown as a player. And to some extent, that will then translate into management. Now, you look at Vincent Kompany, and it doesn't surprise me by the nature of the personality of what we've seen on the television screen, what we've seen as a player. Gone out and plied his trade in Anderlecht, come back and is now managing in the Championship. So let's not get carried away. We're in a Championship. Let's see what he does when he gets in the Premier League. But right now, he's doing a great job. But you would look at him and think, that's a leader. So that could possibly translate, because there was something about Kompany as a man that when he played for Man City that stepped out of the thinking of a player, and you thought, oh, I could see that guy doing something else in life. Xavi, I can't speak to enough, but I certainly know that he was a top quality footballer. And you look at Mikel Arteta, and Mikel Arteta has been given a license at Arsenal to build some confidence and to build some motivation and to build some success. But the common denominator in all their experiences football-wise will be what they've taken from Pep. How they deploy it, that's entirely on them. That's nothing to do with Pep Guardiola. That's all on them. And I never sat there with people going, well, he's worked with him, so he must have been good. I didn't interview Steve Bruce back in 2001 and think, I tell you what, he's worked with Ferguson and he was the captain of Man United, so he must be good. I sat there looking at the person across the table from me and tell me something I don't know. That's probably quite a long list at the time. But
Yes.
the point is that you judge people by what you see. And of course, if they've got good pedigrees, it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah. Any one particular thing you remember Clough doing you thought, I'm going to have that, I'm going to steal that when I become a manager? One particular thing.
There's a multitude of things that he did, and I thought I certainly wouldn't treat people that way on occasion. I think the way he supported players that were at a low ebb. I mean, his personality contrast was when you were on a high, he'd bring you down. That was a given. You knew you got picked for England or you this or that, he'd bring you down. I'll tell you what, the other side of that is when you're at a low period of time, he would back you. Incredibly. There was times where the City ground were up in arms that certain individuals were in the team, and he would stand up on that touchline and say to the crowd in no uncertain terms, shut your mouth, I'm backing this kid, and keeping him in the team.
Love it.
And that's what he did. I mean, psychology, call it what you want.
Yeah, fantastic. You met him, Simon. Did you meet him in your days?
Very briefly, but only in
football.
passing. I got to hear a lot about him from Trevor Francis.
Yeah.
Because Trevor was obviously playing for him in Brian's pomp
Yeah.
at that time when they were winning the European Cup. And the stories that you were told, I'm not entirely sure the Brian Clough that managed at that time would have sat with the new sort of ownership models that now exist, where chairmen were more vociferous. He is of that school of thought, the Len Shackleton school of thought, isn't it? Which is what a directors and football club owners know about football, a blank page in a book.
Yeah. He did things his way, Stuart, didn't he?
He was.
Rightly
And
so.
when he was in his pomp, he had an
Taylor.
assist, Peter Taylor, alongside him, that as a team, they were magnificent.
Yeah.
Individually, I think Brian lost a little bit.
Yeah. I interviewed him about Martin O'Neill getting Celtic to their first cup final. And he said, I might go off script at the start of the interview. And he did. He said he wanted, it was around the time of the funding or lack of it for Wembley, and how Wembley would become the new Wembley, but it was taking time, and who was going to fund it. And he said, I just want to talk about Wembley. I want to talk about that man, Adam Crozier, and Margaret Thatcher. And he said, if I was a scientist, I'd put the two of them in a space capsule and fire it to the darkest part of Mars. He was magnificent.
Very supportive of them, obviously.
Very much so.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.